Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to Lesson 4 from the series on Genesis. It's titled The Flood, ready for teaching on April 23, and my name is Percy Harrold. Wednesday, April 20, The Covenant, Part 1. Now it was the moment when the promised covenant was to be fulfilled. Genesis 6 verse 18, "But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you." In contrast to the divine threat to destroy in the previous verse, "And behold, I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth, to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die." This covenant was the promise of life. Read Genesis chapter 8, verse 20. What did Noah do first when he went out of the ark, and why? Genesis 8, beginning at verse 20, "Then Noah built an ark to the Lord, and took of every clean animal, and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar." Like Adam and Eve, who surely worshipped God on Sabbath immediately after the 6 days of creation, Noah worshipped God immediately after the flood, another creation event in and of itself. There is a difference, however, between the two acts of worship. Unlike Adam and Eve, who worshipped the Lord directly, Noah had to resort to a sacrifice. This is the first mention in the scriptures of an altar. The sacrifice is a burnt offering, or olah, O-L-A-H, the oldest and most frequent sacrifice. For Noah, this sacrifice was a thanksgiving offering, given in order to express his gratefulness to the Creator who had served him. And to compare about the thanksgiving offering, we go to Numbers chapter 15, verses 1 to 11. "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When you come into the land you are to inhabit, which I am giving to you, and you make an offering by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering or a sacrifice, to fulfill a vow, or as a freewill offering, or in your appointed feasts, to make sweet aroma to the Lord from the herd of the flock, then he who presents his offering to the Lord shall bring a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine. As a drink offering you shall prepare with the burnt offering or the sacrifice. For each lamb or for a ram you shall prepare as a grain offering 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil, and as a drink offering you shall offer 1/3 of a hin of wine as a sweet aroma to the Lord. And when you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering, or as a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a peace offering to the Lord, then shall be offered with the young bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with half a hin of oil. And you shall bring as the drink offering half a hin of wine as an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. Thus it shall be done for each young bull, for each ram, and for each lamb or young goat." Read Genesis chapter 9, verses 2 to 4. How did the flood affect the human diet? What is the principle behind God's restrictions? Genesis 9, beginning at verse 2. "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth, on every bird of the air, on all that move on the earth, and on all the fish of the sea. They are given into your hand. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. I have given you all things, even as the green herbs. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood." Because of the effect of the flood, plant food was no longer available as it used to be. Therefore, God allowed humans to eat animal flesh. This change of diet generated a change in the relationship between humans and animals, in contrast to what had been between them in the original creation. In the creation account, humans and animals shared the same plant diet and did not threaten each other. In the post-flood world, the killing of animals for food entailed a relationship of fear and dread, as we read there in verse 2, "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth, on every bird of the air, on all that move on the earth, and on all the fish of the sea. They are given into your hand." Once they started eating each other, humans and animals, no doubt, developed a relationship quite different from what they had enjoyed in Eden. God's tolerance, however, had two restrictions. First, not all the animals were proper for food. The first restriction was implicit in the distinction between clean and unclean animals, which was a part of the creation order, as we read about in Genesis 8 and verses 19 and 20. "Every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever creeps on the earth, according to their families, went into the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animal, and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar." And we'll compare that with Genesis chapter 1, verses 21 to 24. Actually, we'll read verses 21. "So God created great sea creatures, and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good." And verse 24, "Then God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so." The second one, which was explicit and new, was to abstain from the consumption of blood, for life is in the blood, as we read again in Genesis 9, verse 4. "But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood." This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.